Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the NBA 2K roster review. I'm your host, John Markish, aka the Real 2K Insider. Today we're going to be reviewing games from December 29th, and we're going to be using my roster, the Real 2K roster, available on the PS4. Just search Real 2K or my username, Real 2K Insider, and you should be able to find it. So the 10 games from the 29th are the Knicks beat the Cavs 95 to 86. The Warriors beat the Pistons 116 to 106 to get their first one of the year. The Celtics beat the Pacers 116 to 111. The Clippers blew out the Wolves 124 to 101. The Bucks decimated the Heat 144 to 97. The Magic beat the Thunder 118 to 107. The Sixers beat the Raptors 100 to 97. The Suns beat the Pelicans 111 to 86. The Kings beat the Nuggets again 125 to 115. And the Bulls beat the Wizards 115 to 107. So let's start off with the Sixers. As of yet, I really haven't had any major notes on this team. Joel Embiid, he had 29, 16, and 4, coming back from rest from his last game. Tobias Harris, he had 26 points, 11 rebounds. It's his best game of the year. He could be in line for a bounce back year because of his Doc Rivers connection. He had kind of a disappointing year in 2020. So maybe he'll go up to like an 85, 86 this year. We'll see. Frickin' Korkmaz, he strained his groin. He's out for 2 weeks. So Matisse Thybulle is getting run in his place. And you may notice that I switched his position to shooting guard. And that's because Shake Milton, we've played 4 games already, and he's just established himself as Danny Green's backup. So I switched Milton and Korkmaz's positions. It's worth noting also that 2K Sports only has Shake Milton at 76 overall, whereas I have him at 81 overall, more in line with what a 6-man should really be. And one more position note is I removed the second position from Ben Simmons, as it looks like Doc is using him exclusively at the 1 compared to last year where Brett Brown couldn't figure out if Simmons was a point guard or a power forward. So going over to the Bucks, who they blew out the Heat by 47. That was a much-needed revenge game after losing to them in the playoffs this past year. They hit an NBA record 29 threes in the game. Just to put into perspective how efficient they were, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday combined for 49 points on 9 of 28 shooting, including 10 of 15 on threes. And then Dante DiVincenzo and Brook Lopez combined for 31 points on 10 of 13 shooting, 8 of 10 on threes. So the Bucks just could not miss in this game. And we even check out the bench unit of Augustine, Portis, and Forbes. They combined for 33 points, 12 of 23 shooting, and 5 of 12 on threes. So Bucks flat out couldn't miss. It's just one game though, so they didn't play well in their last couple. They're only 2-2 on the year. We'll see how things move forward for them over the next month. Checking out the Bulls. Kobe White, he continued his steady play with 18 points and 6 assists. Sorry, where's Kobe White? So I've already boosted his assist rate, and we're really just looking for his efficiency to show up so we can boost his scoring ratings and get him in like the 78 overall kind of range. Otto Porter, he had a revenge game against the Wizards with 16 points off the bench, and overall it was just solid play across the board for the Bulls to get their first win of the year. And it is worth noting that under head coach Billy Donovan, they have the second highest pace in the NBA right now. So that's another thing that will end up tweaking if that trend continues. We're only 4 games in, so some of this stuff you can't read too heavily into. But moving along to the Cavaliers. Big news for them is Kevin Love is out for 3 to 4 weeks with a calf strain. So Larry Nance is going to start in his place. Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, they had 37 points and 10 assists, or they combined for 37 points and 10 assists in this game. but they only shot 12 of 35 from the field, so a little bit of a down game after for their. They still started very hot to start the year, so at least they are capable of having bad nights, right? And then Andre Drummond, he had 18 points, 17 rebounds, 6 blocks. He's leading the league in rebounds, but he also has a negative offensive win share due to his poor shooting and turnovers, which makes him a very polarizing player overall. Although his backup is just dumb efficient, JaVale McGee, 11 points, 9 rebounds in 16 minutes, and he even hit a 3. So this year, he's already 3 of 5 on threes through 4 games. Last year, through 60-something games, he was 3 for 6. And he was 5 for 33 on threes entering this year. So he's hit 3 threes in 4 games this year compared to 5 threes in 12,000 minutes prior to this season. So we're going to have to bump his 3-point rating and tendency, as it seems clear that he's probably going to hit, like, let's say 15 threes or something like that this year. I mean, technically he's on pace to hit like 50, but I don't expect that to hold up. But we're gonna bump that to a 70 for now. And realistically, at the rate he's going, he would deserve higher than that. But I am always cautious. And let's head over to his tendency. So you see here he's got a 2 3-point tendency. And we can bump that up to a 15. Realistically, based on his current production, he would deserve like a 25 to a 30. So I'm willing to just go halfway on that. And the other thing you have to adjust, this just affects the sim stats. In order for him to spot up, you also need to adjust this. I'm going to put him at about a 30. And let's move on. So I'm going to do more things like that during this video series as we get larger samples, and it's possible to do that. I think it'd be neat to do some live roster editing and show you guys what I'm doing with the data I'm presented. So going over to the Celtics, Jason Tatum, he had 27 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, continues the solid year that he's having. Peyton Pritchard, 10 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, another solid game off the bench. He was part of the closing lineup, shifting Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum up a position as he's been playing the 2 next to whoever the point guard on the floor is. So it's possible that he becomes a starter at some point over Daniel Tice, because that's who he played over in the fourth quarter of this game. Javonte Green got some run in this one. He and Teague subbed in for Tatum and Tice, which I think shifted Jaylen Brown up to power forward. And the reason the Celtics were able to get away with that is because the Pacers, who were their opponent, they run Doug McDermott as a backup 4, who's really more of a 3. So yeah, there probably won't be a ton of games where you see a shooting guard at the 4 position, although Jaylen Brown has played the 4 before in his career, and the Celtics do go small a lot. But just, it's not going to be the most frequent thing, I think. We'll see. Going over the Clippers, still not a ton of notes for this team. They bounced back from a 51-point blowout. Facing the Timberwolves, we'll do that for you because they're a mess right now. But focusing on the Clippers, they shot 53% in this game and 51% on threes. Luke Kennard continued to start for Kawhi, and Lou Williams finally got going with 20 points and 5 assists on 7 of 11 shooting. Kawhi still out with a mouth laceration, and it's possible that I may end up switching Luke Kennard's position to small forward, as even though Paul George, anytime Kennard subs in, Paul George basically shifts to the 3, but we did start to see some lineups where Jackson and Kennard play together along with Lou Williams. So if those lineups are going to happen, obviously they're happening right now because Kawhi's out, but all the same, it's going to make more sense for the computer's depth chart for Kawhi to have an actual backup behind him. So let's actually see what the lineup looks like or what the substitution pattern they're doing is. So, okay, right now everything is working as intended. Kennard's basically getting most of his minutes at the 3. So, don't necessarily need to change that right away, but it's something I've got my eye on. Going over to the Heat. They got crushed against the Bucks. Really no notes because of that. So the in-game notes were the Heat were without Jimmy Butler. So as a result of that, Mo Harkless started. Mo Harkless played 4 minutes, and he never came back in the game. They also started Myers Leonard. He played 2 minutes. They pulled him like almost immediately. He never re-entered the game. Spoelstra went with a quick hook when he realized that the lineup wasn't going to work, and they were down by such a big deficit by halftime that it was just they put in a garbage time unit. They didn't bother putting those guys back in. Dragic was the player that they brought in within 2 minutes, and he didn't play after the first quarter. Andre Iguodala, he didn't play at all. The Heat basically waved the white flag earlier than I've ever seen a team wave it. And for the third quarter, KZ Okpala and Avery Bradley started. Tyler Hero was the lone bright spot. He scored 23 points. He had 7 assists. And Kendrick Nunn basically played for Dragic in the second half. He had 15 points and 6 assists, showing that he can still play. He's just waiting for his time in the rotation to pop up. He's kind of the odd man out at the moment. Going over to the Kings, who are 3-1. They got solid production out of everyone from top to bottom. But the person that really stood out in this game was Tyrese Halliburton. He had 13 points, 6 assists, 3 steals. He was 5 of 7 from the field, 3 of 4 on threes. He played the entire fourth quarter, which the Kings won by 14. He's averaging 11 points, 5 assists, shooting 56% from the field, doing all that in 27 minutes a game. So I updated his overall rating to a 78. Worth noting that 2K Sports has him at a 74, so he's pretty drastically underrated for them right now. And one more note for the team is Daquan Jeffries suffered a grade 3 ankle sprain. That's the most severe ankle sprain you can have, so he's going to miss extended time. For what it's worth, Ja Morant had a grade 2 ankle sprain, the point guard for the Grizzlies, and he's out 3 to 5 weeks. So Jeffries is probably out probably twice as long, I would say. So 6 to 8 weeks is my guess. Going over to the Knicks, who are actually not looking terrible. Julius Randle, he had 28 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, triple-doubled. He did have 9 turnovers, but, this is Julius Randle. He shot 9 of 16 from the field, 4 for 4 on threes, and 6 of 10 from the line. So for the season, Randle is averaging 25 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, and he's 9 of 13 on threes, which is good for 69%. Nice. His assist rate is 36%. Last year, that was 16%. So that's like a 20-point difference in what his pass ratings should be, which is wild. Obviously, it's only 4 games, but that's a Blake Griffin-esque assist rate. And big men, if you have a higher assist rate than Blake Griffin, you're basically Nikola Jokic. So Randall's passing the ball really well, and it's helped him be a more efficient scorer overall. So we're gonna do some more live editing. All right. So I already bumped his shot ratings to a 74 and a 78. 3-point rating going up because, again, he's shooting very well this year. Compared to last year, he was like 27%, I think. And then pass ratings. Oh, never mind. I said I was going to do all this live, but it looks like I already did some of it. I brought his pass ratings up about 10 points each. Let's see what else. Where the heck is shot IQ? I never remember. Oh, there we go. Okay. Wah wah wee wah. Okay. So despite all the changes that I made, I raised all his pass ratings by 10 points. I brought his shot ratings up, offensive consistency, his shot IQ. His overall didn't move. So 2K Sports needs to adjust their overall formulas for big men to make passing more important, because passing for big men has gone through the roof over the last couple of years. Not just like the Joker, but players like Blake Griffin, Nikola Vucevic, etc. Bam Adebayo, Pascal Siakam, like the list of big men who are excellent passers. Giannis, is escalating. Teams are getting secondary playmaking out of their bigs, and the ones who do it don't get any benefit to their overall rating. So that's something that they need to adjust moving forward, because I highly doubt that's going to change anytime soon. That's the direction the league has been heading for a while. And let's see, Reggie Bullock is the other player that we're going to be changing. He got extended run with Alec Burks nursing an injury. So Bullock had 17 points, 7 rebounds, and shot 5 of 9 on threes in this game. For the season, he's averaging 10 points. He's shooting 44% from three-point range. Last year, he was only 33% as he dealt with back issues. And he's a career 39% shooter overall. So we're going to ignore last year's 33%, and we're going to bump him up to his career rate at the very least, which, as you may have noticed, bumps his overall a point, and changed his archetype to sharpshooter. Very cool. And because he's been a starter this year, I'm also going to buff his intangibles. That doesn't change his overall, but brings him a little bit closer to the next tier. And one more note for the Knicks is they are 12th in defensive efficiency through 4 games under Tibbs. So if that holds, we can start looking at various players' defensive attributes, their defensive consistency, etc., to raise some of these overalls. The Knicks are 2-2, which beats being 0-4, which is probably what a lot of other people would have anticipated them being to start the year. So going over to the Magic, I have very few notes for this team. Vucevic, who we just mentioned, he had 28 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. He was 12 of 18 from the field, 3 of 4 on threes. So overall, very efficient game to kind of counteract some lesser efficient games that he's had to start the year. And Dwayne Bacon came alive after he had 12 points through his first 3 games. And in this game, he had 18 points and 8 rebounds and shot 9 of 10 from the field. So it's about time he woke up. Obviously, that game doesn't reflect being a 72 overall, but his first 3 games certainly do. So he needs to have more games like that and be a more consistent player overall if he wants to go up in rating. So going over to the Nuggets, Jokic, who we just talked about, 26 points, 11 rebounds, 12 assists, but he did have 10 turnovers, so he had the poor man's quadruple-double. It's his 3rd triple-double of the year. He missed his 4th by 1 rebound. I think that was in his 2nd game. He has an absurd 54% assist rate. So, where are his passing ratings? The 54 assist percentage, that's John Stockton-esque. Like, that's 2nd in the league, sandwiched between James Harden and Russell Westbrook. There are very few players ever historically who've ever been above 50% for a season, and Jokic would, he's got the highest assist rate for a big man ever, basically. So we're gonna do that. If his assist rates hold up, he's gonna be a big man with pass ratings in the 90s, or with like maxed out pass ratings, which, hey, that'll bring his rating up. Michael Porter Jr., where he at? He had 30 points, 10 rebounds on 12-18 shooting. So overall, a really solid game. But the defense for the Nuggets kind of collapsed down the stretch, and Coach Michael Malone has already called out Porter for his defensive lapses. So that is something that he's going to need to work on in order for him to take the next leap. We already know that he can score. His offensive ratings are already pretty high. So if he wants to jump into the 85 overall tier, he needs to work on where is it? That his defensive consistency is in the gutter. Monte Morris, he started this game for the injured Jamal Murray. He had 24 points and 4 assists on 10 of 15 shooting. But as mentioned before, the team's defense collapsed, and I think the starters might have been gassed because they did play a lot in this game. As without Murray, they didn't really have a ton of they don't have a ton of depth this year. They're still missing JaMychal Green, so not a ton of talent on the bench right now. Going over the Pacers, they lost their first game of the year, but Victor Oladipo continued his strong play with 24 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. Shot 10 of 18 from the field. It's his third consecutive game with 20 points. He only scored 20 points twice last year, so he's already exceeded that total in 2021. More important than the point totals, though, is his shooting percentage. He's shooting 61% from the field compared to 39% last year. He's shooting 23 points per. He's averaging 23 points per game, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Shooting the 61%. He's hit 56% of his threes, 9 of 16. Last year he was only 32% from 3. So let's tweak. Let's see, shot IQ and offensive consistency. We'll bring up a little bit. Going over to the Pelicans, they lost to the Suns by 25. The team shot 3 of 24 on threes, so not a great showing, and they don't have the best shooters in the world. They do run a traditional lineup of Steven Adams and Zion. They're not really stretching the floor. And Eric Bledsoe isn't the strongest shooter either. So worth noting from this game is Zion Williamson. He had 20 points on 9 of 13 shooting, but he only had 2 rebounds in 29 minutes. So the rebounding was a concern for him entering this year. But he did average 12 rebounds over his first 3 games. So I'm going to boost his rebound rating by 5 points. This would go higher, but the game he just had gives me a little pause, Going down to the Pistons. They're 0-4 to start the year, which is probably what most people anticipated based on the offseason that they had. But they have had some bright spots. Jeremy Grant had another 27-point game. He scored 27, 27, and 28 in his last 3 games. He's averaging 23 points in 37 minutes. And more impressive than that, actually, is he's only had 5 turnovers in 40 games. He's only had 5 turnovers in 4 games. 5 turnovers in 149 minutes while scoring 23 points per game. That's dumb efficient. He's 7 of 15 from short mid-range, aka close range. Last year he was 39%, so worth keeping an eye on his efficiency from here, as maybe that'll go up a couple points. And I'm gonna, because his rating isn't really, I feel like the 2K formula doesn't really account for his attributes very well. We're just gonna boost his intangibles a little bit. Actually, I could see his defensive consistency. Let's Let's boost that a little bit to get him to an 82. And another bright spot for the team is Josh Jackson. Josh Jackson started his second consecutive game over Delon Wright. The reason Delon Wright came off the bench in the last game is because Derrick Rose was out due to rest, but Rose was back and Wright continued to come off the bench, so I'm adjusting my depth chart and considering Josh Jackson the starter. Jackson is averaging 17 points and 6 rebounds, shooting 51% from the field. He's done an excellent job replacing Luke Kennard. And when you look at his contract, making $4.7 million, that's just an absurd value compared to what Luke Kennard just signed with the Clippers, like 4 years, $64 million. So we're going to adjust Josh Jackson. We're going to boost his layup rating, shot IQ. He's rebounding the ball better than he did last year. And we're going to bring up his intangibles because I am considering him the team's starter. So all those changes bring him up to a 77, which makes him the highest rated 2 guard on the team. So he should start on the depth chart now. Going over to the Raptors. Kyle Lowry, 24 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, but in a losing effort as the Raptors are now 0-3 to start the year. And Pascal Siakam had 20 points, 6 rebounds, but 0 assists, and also 6 fouls in 35 minutes. He shot 8 for 23 from the field, 4 of 9 on threes, and did not get to the free throw line. So 20 points on 23 shots. He's averaging 19, 9, and 5 in 39 minutes, but he's only shooting 39% for the season. The Raptors need better from him if they're going to make the playoffs. And they should no longer be considered locks to do so with an 0-3 record. Siakam was All-NBA second team last year, but that was always a bit of a stretch. If the current rate maintains, he won't make the All-Star team, much less an All-NBA team. And his overall is probably going to drop to like the 84, 85 range. And another player that didn't really do much was Chris Boucher. He only played 5 minutes against the 76ers, and he did all of that while Joel Embiid was on the bench. The Raptors went with Alex Len, I presume due to the size differential, as they didn't want Boucher matched up with Embiid where there's an 80-pound disadvantage. So they went with the bigger player for that matchup. And that's something that's worth noting anytime the Raptors face off against a team with a bruiser, like anybody who's like 280 pounds, so Andre Drummond, Brook Lopez, Joseph Nurkic, Nikola Jokic, these bruisers do still exist in the league, so the Raptors are probably going to put the skinny guy on the bench for those matchups. Going over to the Suns, not a ton of still no notes really for the team rating wise, but Dario Saric, I should say, he made his debut. He had 10 points in 14 minutes off the bench, and he played center, so I adjusted positions for the entire team. I've got Saric at center, and then I moved Cam Johnson to the 4, Langston Galloway to the 3, and we've got Jalen Smith at the 4 as they were a little congested on 5s now. Galloway looks a little bit odd at small forward, but it is what it is. That's where they've been playing for the first 4 games, as they've been using Javon Carter at the 2 and Cam Payne at the 1. So no matter what, there's going to be a 6'1" guy at the 3. Going over to the Thunder, Al Horford and George Hill rested. So Isaiah Roby started in Horford's place. He had 19 points, 7 rebounds. He was 9 of 12 from the field. He'd only played 3 games and 11 career minutes prior to that. And I had him at power forward before, so I switched his position. So I mean, obviously that's a very good game for a player that I currently have rated at 71. And I had to max out his intangibles in order to get him that high. So, we're going to have to keep an eye on him to see if he's able to replicate that. He may not play for like another 2 weeks, whenever Horford gets his rest or whatever. But, yeah, good to see him play well in like his first real minutes of NBA action. And Justin Jackson, he started at the 3 in this game for George Hill, basically shifting Dort down to the 2 and SGA down to the 1. SGA had 23, 7, and 7 in his start at point guard. So overall, continuing to have a solid year. And Poku was 1 for 8 from the field. He's now 1 for 16 from the field, which is 6.3%, and 0 for 11 in his NBA career. Might be due for a G League stint once that season gets underway, as at some point you can't play. It doesn't matter if the guy is a 7-foot J.R. Smith. He's got to make the shots that he takes, right? Timberwolves, second straight blowout without Karl Towns. They're a bit of a mess right now. They were also without Josh Okogie for this game. So they're really thin right now. Jarrett Culver started at power forward, and he went 0 for 10, although he did add 10 rebounds. They basically started Rubio, shifted D'Lo up to the 2, and then moved Beasley up to the 3. Rubio had a solid line with 17 points and 5 assists. And they also went away from Naz Reid in this game, and they ran Jared Vanderbilt as a center in the second half. So I had changed Vanderbilt's second position as a result. Jake Layman came off the bench in this game instead of as they started Culver, and he had been completely ineffective as a starter. Wasn't too much more effective off the bench either, but he played the 3 next to Hernan Gomez, so maybe we change his position. I don't know. The Timberwolves are just a mess right now. Like, so much of their excellent start was tied into Karl Towns. Going over to the Warriors, James Wiseman. I adjusted his 3-point rating because he's 5 of 6 on threes to start the season. And Steph Curry, he had his best game of the year with 31 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. He did have 8 turnovers, but again, he's getting targeted by defenses. So either the shooting will be good or the turnovers will be up. The shooting will be bad or the turnovers will be up. In this game, the shooting was good. 9 of 17, 5 of 9 on threes, and 8 of 8 at the line. And Andrew Wiggins came alive. He had 27 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 blocks. 9 of 19 from the field, 5 of 8 on threes. And Kelly Oubre showed some signs of life with 14 points on 6 of 10 shooting. It's the first game of the year where he wasn't dreadful. Wiseman, he fouled out in 22 minutes. He's going to have games like that, and he's going to need to stay out of foul trouble as the team is without Marquise Chris for the rest of the year. And Michael Mulder came in for Wiggins again, so I'm definitely locking in Mulder as a shooting guard for his position rather than a point guard. And for the Wizards, Bradley Beal, he dropped 29 points. He's averaging 32 points a game, but he's currently only shooting 6 of 25 from the 3-point line, which is 24%. And the Wizards lost this game. They're 0-4 to start the year. He didn't speak to the media after the game. He's pretty pissed off at the way things are going right now. Russell Westbrook, he had 21 points, 15 rebounds, 11 assists. He has 3 triple-doubles through 3 games, but the team has no wins to show for it. And worth noting that he's 1 for 10 from the 3-point line, so they're not getting any 3-point shooting from the backcourt right now. Davis Bertans, he had 20 points in 26 minutes. First solid game for him. He had been on a minutes limit to start the year, but he's started to ramp up his activity. Right now, the 25-26 minutes is his limit rather than like 19-20 minutes. So he actually started the third quarter in place of Isaac Bonga. So we could see a lineup change as he gets closer to 100%. And it's worth noting that Bertans actually mentioned that he considers himself at about 60 to 70% in terms of his conditioning, as he was a late addition to camp due to some visa issues. And Roy Hashimara, he's expected to play the next game on Thursday, so I think he's going to resume starting at the 4. So I guess we will have a lineup change, which will allow probably Denny Advia to start at the 3 rather than at the 4. And some other news for the team is they declined their fourth-year options on Jerome Robinson and Mo Wagner. Both players are not in the rotation, and Robinson would have made 5.3 million next year, and Wagner would have made 3.9 million. Since both guys aren't even in the rotation, they're both worth about the minimum. So if the team wants to keep them moving forward, they can do so at a discount rather than at a premium. So that's all for this episode of the Real 2K roster review. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this content, like my video and subscribe so you don't miss another episode. I'll catch y'all later. Peace.